playing with confidence. Surges it inside 50.
Inside 50, good hands.
Drilling it into centre half forward. That was end-to-end football at its best.
Back-to-back goals on the side of quarter time.
But it's done with the Bulldogs!
I'd fight somebody for you. There ain't no wall I wouldn't run through. In your corner when we're ringing the bell. Come hell or high water. I'd fight somebody for you.
Yes, hello WAFL fans. Welcome one and all to another massive edition of Around the WAFL on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel in collaboration with the WA Sporting Hub, an amalgamation of Front Row Screens and Associates, and also on your go-to podcast service anywhere around West Australia and across the world. Well, it's a big show, all right. It's a Good Friday feast that we've got coming your way in the WAFL world. The opening round of the WAFL season coming up and round 2 of the WAFL W. And we're going to have a massive preview of all games coming your way throughout the show. But I won't be doing this alone. Alongside me, he's getting his voice prepared for a big weekend of commentary. Let's hope it stays intact. Ethan Roth, how are you, mate? You pumped up for the big season?
Yeah, pumped, Paul. Great to be back in, full round of WAFL and WAFL W to come, so can't wait.
First one for the season, and in just a moment, we're going to be joined by the big ruckman from the East Perth Football Club, Scott Jones, who's gearing up for another massive season with the Royals after back-to-back grand finals. He knows, and the club knows, that they want third time lucky in 2026. We'll also have a detailed preview of all the games. I went to Subiaco during the pre-season as well, spoke with Jared Schofield and Greg Clark. That'll be on Around the WAFL on location coming up a little bit later. And Rothy, we're going to delve into our pre-season picks for 2026, our grand finalists, premiers, and the 5 in 2026. So you've got a pretty tough task as well.
Yeah, I mean, we previewed that segment in the WAFL W, so trying to follow up in the WAFL. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Let's hope we don't end up with egg on our face come September, although it's more likely I will because I say a lot of outlandish things. Anyway, the Around the WAFL podcast is, of course, available on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel and, of course, on your podcast provider. You can follow us on Around the WAFL on Facebook and Instagram, our socials, for some great social content that is going to be coming your way across the next 6 months. Also, a big thanks to all our supporters in 2026. Of course, Front Row Screen Sport, District Promotions led by Barry Miles and his team, Sullivan Logistics, proud partners of the WAFL season 2026, and of course, Grant Lauderback and his team from Grant's Car Stereo. Thanks so much for your support in season 2026. Okay, let's get to the big news items leading up to this weekend of football, Rothy. First up, we're going to be speaking with Scott Jones a little later, but of course, another Royal is the subject of our first news item this week. Hamish Brayshaw, massive blow for him and the Royals. Hammer is going to miss the opening round. Yeah,
it's a big blow, isn't it? Obviously, Sandover medalists missing their clash, so you want them out there round 1. They do bat deep in their midfield, so they've been able to get it done with him last year in particular, which will give them confidence. However, anytime Hammer's out, it's going to cause someone to step up, but that'll be the challenge for the Royals.
Hammer, of course, battling some calf issues over the last week or so. We don't know to what extent how long he's going to be out for. Let's hope for the Royals' sake and the fans' sake that he won't be out there for too long and he'll be back on the ground, fingers crossed, in round 2 against Swan Districts. We've also got a piece from Nick Rinn in the 7 Point Play podcast that we're going to show our fans right now. Paul Sanzoni got on there in the first episode of the year. Congrats to Nick Rinn and his team, a second season of the 7 Point Play show. Speaking about Kane Bevan and his growing maturity as a key member of the West Perth squad in 2026, here's a quick snippet.
Kane's just, he's a professional at everything that he does. The way he trains, the way he prepares himself and his recovery. Look, Kane's been injected into our leadership group, so he's got a little bit more responsibility this year as well. But that hasn't affected the way he's trained, and we're looking for a super season from Kane. And you never know. If he starts the season well, he no doubt could be knocking on the door at mid-season as well.
Well, there you have it. Nick Rinn chatting with Paul Sanzoni about Kane Bevan. He could be that focal point in midfield after a great season with West Perth last year. What do you make of it?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about him in the mid-season draft in previous years, but now that you're into his belt in the leadership group, and I think, he's leading the way.
Certainly is. Think about this, 28 touches in his last 2 games, and after the change in coach mid-season, he averaged over 20 touches after the round 12 win over Peel Thunder. So the numbers are just proof in the pudding.
Yeah, I think he was quite stiff to miss out on state selection as well, so I reckon that's another goal that he'll be eyeing off, around that mid-season draft period.
Yeah, it will be a big year for West Perth, and Kane Bevan could be leading that charge, and AFL clubs will certainly be on his radar if he has a great start to the year on Saturday. And a cast of debutantes is also set to be leading the focus on WAFL 2026. Clint Hinchcliffe was confirmed this morning before this recording as a debutant for Swan Districts against South Fremantle on Friday. And Archie Watt is also another new addition to WAFL circles. He is set to make his debut for the West Coast Eagles on Friday.
Yeah, coming across from over east, and Clint Hinchcliffe as well. What a story that is. We spoke about the flexibility of Swan Districts allowing him to play Premier cricket still, and then train in the pre-season. And he's going to make his long-awaited WAFL debut after playing a bit of state 18s footy probably about a decade ago.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity for him. And also on Clint Hinchcliffe, credit to him and Swan Districts for having that opportunity to allow Clint to train and play in Premier cricket at the same time as training at Swan Districts pre-season. So he's keeping that athletic fitness up to a great standard, and it's a credit to Andrew Prune and the Swan Districts coaching staff for allowing him that opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know how many other people could fit that in, so credit to him, on top of working full-time, etc., etc.
We'd have to go back to the VFL days 1970 with Peter Bedford.
He's running it old school, isn't he? But nonetheless, debuting, and can't wait to see what he does out there. He's a ball magnet, just following a little bit of his stuff in the PFL. Got a really good left foot on him as well, so hopefully he can transition that to the big time for the Black Ducks.
And we do wish him and all the debutants all the best for the weekend. Now, let's get right down to business, Rothy. Our guest for today, he is the big ruckman from the East Perth Football Club. He's gearing up for another huge season of WAFL football. I'm talking, of course, about the giant Scott Jones, and he's good enough to join us here on Around the WAFL to kick off the show, heading into the Royals' round 1 clash against Subiaco on Good Friday. G'day, Jonesy.
G'day, guys.
Great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on today. Been an intense pre-season, obviously, with the Royals looking for third time lucky in 2026. How have you found the pre-season this time, heading into what is going to be a huge opening round against the Lions on Friday?
Yeah, it's always been a fun time of year, especially it's a long pre-season, even when you finish towards the end of September. But it's always been a good fun, especially lately, the last few years, I've really been enjoying putting the shoulder to the wheel and getting the grind in and getting the work in, and all our young group and the young guys have been really exciting, and with the energy around the group, because we know we've been at the mark, and the reserves boys winning the premiership last year, so they're just as excited and raring to go for another big season.
What's been the messaging heading into 2026? Obviously, you just referred to it there. You don't have to search too far and wide for motivation. So what's been sort of the theme heading into 2026?
Big thing for the senior boys is clearly just not good enough yet. So we've been focusing on the little things, like as much as we've been doing everything right, there's little of the 1%ers and just finishing off our good work to be able to get there all the way. So that's been the big motivator for us, because obviously coming second 2 years in a row basically hurts a little bit, but it shows us that we're nearly there.
I asked Ross McQueen this question during the pre-season. I want to throw the same one to you. That reserves premiership that the Royals won, coming from 5th, has that been a bit of a source of motivation for the senior boys heading into the season?
Absolutely. It just shows we've now got the depth behind us, behind that sort of senior group, to be able to be pushing through, where we've got sort of 30, 35 guys on the list that could be definitely league players. And for the first time in my career at East Perth, it's been sort of to that number. I remember when I first started, we had barely had a league team really sort of coming in. So to have that depth now really gives us a bit of sort of assurance, but also driving and motivation for the young boys, that if they're going to get their spot, they've got to earn it. They're not just going to be gifted a game. They've got to beat out multiple people.
Subiaco on Good Friday, they've recruited quite well, and there's been a lot made of their, Jared Schofield coming back to the club. So you must be really eager to see, how you go against them. You probably go in as favourites, but having said that, there's a bit of an unknown about Subiaco, so you have to be at your best.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been, a few years ago, they were the bullied, not only us, but the whole competition. So now it's sort of time for the things have changed a little bit, so hopefully we can try and change that fact a little bit. But as you said, they've recruited well, and Schofield drives a pretty strong machine down there at Subiaco. So we're very interested to see how they go, but I can't wait.
Hamish Brayshaw is the only downside as far as East Perth is concerned. He won't play on Friday. He's been battling some calf issues, as we've been told. Who do you think is going to be able to fill that big void in the form of Hamish Brayshaw in that midfield as that prime anchor in midfield alongside Amajuri and company?
It's a great question, actually. I don't really envy the coaches would have been there till about midnight last night, I reckon, picking the side for this weekend. So it's been a tough challenge. As I said, our depth is pretty strong. So to be able to pick out a best 22, 23 would be pretty difficult. But we've got a lot of young guys coming through. I know Sammy Van Diemen and Will Cassidy and some other sort of guys that are looking to get a bit more inside time and use that speed. But our regulars should be ready to go and ready for it.
Should be a big game on Friday night. We wish you all the very best for the game and, of course, season 2026 as you aim for third time lucky. Scotty Jones, we really appreciate your time on Around the Waffle. Go get him on Friday.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Scotty Jones, the East Perth ruckman, good enough to join us here on Around the Waffle. And he made some good points in this chat. You know, second place last 2 years, focus on the little things because that's not good enough. You want to get to the top, and East Perth are striving to get to the top after 2 defeats.
Yeah, and he was one of the best on Grand Final Day. I know, obviously, Hamish Free went on to win the Simpson medal, but Scotty Jones more than held his own. So he performs in the big games. He's got AFL experience, one of the premier rucks in the competition. So, probably just needs to achieve a flag, and then he's just about done it all, you'd have to say, at WAFL level, which is what he's striving for.
He certainly is. And he even had a broken finger during the pre-season and missed one of the pre-season games, but that doesn't seem to faze him. You know, you could even give him a foot injury and he'd still play. That's how tough he is in this modern day of WAFL football.
Yeah, and I suppose he's not the most athletic ruckman, we know that, but, with the game moving and evolving to a quicker game, he still seems up to it. So credit to him, and, East Perth players walk taller when they're out there with Scotty Jones.
We'll preview that game in a bit more detail. The Royals clash with Subiaco after the break here on Around the Waffle. It's a Good Friday feast coming your way in almost 24 hours' time. This is Around the Waffle on the Around the Waffle YouTube channel in a collaboration with the WA Sporting Hub and on your podcast service. We'll be back.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate, from a simple upgrade to complete custom systems. Stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle on the Around the Waffle YouTube channel and also on your podcast service. Big thanks to FRS Sport, Front Row Screen Sports, Sullivan Logistics, District Promotions, and of course Grant's Car Stereo Morley as our supporters for 2026. Okay, the countdown's on, Rothy. Round 1, always an exciting time. After 6 months of pre-season and questions, they can finally be answered with 4 games on Good Friday, 1 on Easter Saturday, and it starts all the way down south in Mandurah, 1:10 p.m. And you can see this live on Channel 7 with Mark Reddings and company. Peel Thunder and East Fremantle. Great tradition as has been in recent years, Rothy, for Peel Thunder and East Fremantle to open the season. But this one, reading into the two sides, it has more unknowns than in other clashes between the Thunder and the Sharks.
Yeah, obviously such a modern rivalry that's been built off the back of that 2023 grand final. And it is a great unknown. Like, obviously East Fremantle have lost some players to the AFL, which is going to hurt them greatly, you'd suspect. Peel Thunder, though, always an unknown with the Fremantle alignment, but, Fremantle team's strong at the moment. So there's going to be some really good players playing for Peel, you'd have to say. So, I think it's no stranger to say that they're going to be favourites heading into this one.
They, of course, won both times in 2025, including early in the season at Lane Group Stadium by more than 60 points. So East Fremantle, they know their way around this small ground, Lane Group Stadium. They've got tighter pockets, and that'll allow the young forwards to really make the most of the space that they can create in the forward line. But they will be disadvantaged somewhat with the lack of weapons that they've got as a result of the likes of Corey Leggett, Tassoni and company retiring at the end of last season. And, of course, with Peel Thunder, you've still got Corey Tregenza as your main weapon up forward. I reckon he's going to have a big season as well. We didn't really tout him as a top contender for the Bernie Naylor medal, but his pre-season work has been tremendous, and he could be one key forward to look out for in 2026, and he could start that on Friday.
Yeah, he's a regular contributor for them. Probably had a bit of a down year last year, but he was also injury-prone as well, taking that into account. So, he walks taller as well when he's got the Fremantle players in and around there. Interesting to see Mason Cox, you suspect will play some minutes. That's going to be a threat for the East Fremantle defence.
That's if he's not selected for the travelling squad for the game against Adelaide in Adelaide on Saturday. So if he's not selected for that Dockers squad, that could be a prime opportunity. And I reckon maybe to get some legs, get the legs going, maybe play a month at least. Play a month, get himself match fit if he gets selected for the Dockers down the track.
Yeah, I think it's known that he's a backup option. Like, he's going to come over and be a backup option and potentially feature for Fremantle. But I think, it's a good opportunity for a lot of the local players to get experience of a guy like Mason Cox, who's, a larger-than-life character, but at the same time, he's a premiership player. He's been in the AFL system for over a decade, so he does know what it takes.
How can East Fremantle as well counter a ruck problem as well? Because Ruben Maguire is out for the season. He injured his knee during the pre-season, and they're going to be a bit short on ruckman, even with a couple of tools that could fill in that void. I don't think it's going to be an easy task against Peel Thunder's big bodies.
Yeah, Aiden Riddle would probably be one of the leading contenders for the ruck. Obviously, Liam already departed the club, so that'll free up East Fremantle a little bit. But always tough coming up against a Peel Thunder ruck-led side. So it'll be interesting. But I think Peel Thunder, look to dominate the clearances as well, because Murdoch is such a fierce competitor in that sense. I noticed East Fremantle put up a April Fool's thing, saying he was going to return, and a few people bought it, but he unfortunately won't be. Unfortunately, from an East Fremantle point of view.
That would have been a cool sight to see him play his 100th game if it wasn't April 1st at the time of this recording. But Milan Murdoch, of course, battling a hamstring injury over there at the West Coast Eagles, and it would be cool to see him play for West Coast in the WAFL side just quietly, see how he goes and get him back to AFL level, although that won't be necessarily because he's been the Eagles' best player in the AFL side. But just back to this game as well, Peel Thunder, they've got bigger bodies. They've got great clearance work in the midfield. They've got more experience despite the loss of Reedy and Brodie in the midfield rotation. East Fremantle, their main weapon is going to be a new recruit from Norwood up forward, and that is Liam Robinson. Kicked 3 goals in a pre-season game against Swan Districts. Having said that, I still got to go with Peel. They've just got more class all around the ground, and they've got bigger bodies, and the dry conditions are going to help.
Robinson obviously needs to get the ball down there as well.
That's right.
They've got experience. There's still 5 or 6 senior players such as Erdley, Jansen, Joyce, etc. But I'm going to go back to Peel, and I think if they play anywhere near their best, they should win this one.
Yeah, I reckon comfortably as well, maybe by about 5 or 6 goals. That should be a great opening to the season nonetheless. The Sharks making the long trip south to Mandurah. Now, next game, Mineral Resources Park at 2:10. Can't wait to call this one alongside Matty Chechens on 7+. The Perth Demons and the West Coast Eagles. A lot expected of these sides as well, and you could say the same thing in this game in regards to the previous game that we discussed, Peel and East Fremantle. A lot of unknowns about their side, but maybe for better reason when you're looking at it, because they've both recruited well. They've got some new faces in the side, or they're going to bolster the depth overall of these sides. And there's a lot of great expectations on Perth and the Eagles to a different extent when you're looking at it.
Yeah, there is. Perth, their time is now to challenge. They've obviously got Charlie Dean, who's going to bolster their backs, but then their midfield is so tight, sticking around for another season or two. Parfitt, Constable, etc. Byrne in there. Schlensdog another year in the ruck. He can be thrown in any position. So, again, they'll go in favourites for this one against another AFL-aligned club, even though, Eagles up against it. But they're all well-rounded, the Eagles, with the likes of Finn McRae coming into the team. They have another year into the likes of Malachi Champion and company coming up. So, another sort of round one tradition. These two teams like to face off at Mineral Resources Park. So, I think it's going to be a real test for West Coast, but there's probably no greater test to set yourself up for in the first round of the season.
Absolutely. Then with the Perth side, who have been heavy in the recruiting table, as you said, Charlie Dean, and also a lot of recruits from interstate as well. Charlie Dean being the biggest of them. I reckon in this matchup, you ease him into that back 6 and you ease the workload on Elijah Scoble. Campbell, who has been putting in a lot of work in that back six, and maybe, putting Charlie Dean around that centre-half back pocket area is going to ease the pressure on Scoble. They could become a two-pronged back six attack, if you get what I'm saying, and that would restrict any opposition forward line to any scoreboard pressure.
And it puts selection squares on for the likes of Glass McCasker, who's probably a walk-up start when he came into the team late last year, but all of a sudden, that poses questions that Mark Stone would love to have, headaches in that sense. So, yeah, it would be interesting. Even for the Eagles as well, Elijah Hewitt is a watch this space in terms of minutes for him and guys like that. I guess with the Eagles AFL team winning, again, selection squares, guys from the WAFL are wanting to prove themselves.
Same case for Sasha Kernan, of course, formerly at West Perth, been at the Perth Football League 12 months ago, and now he's back in the Eagles list. Prime opportunity for him to prove himself.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, he was a goal sneak for West Perth. Went away last year and played for Mount Lawley, I believe, in the PFL, where they ended up winning a B-grade premiership. So, sure, the level down, but comes with winning pedigree, which will be much needed for a young West Coast group.
And with perfect conditions forecast, 28 degrees and sunny, you'd expect this one to be fast, high attacking, high scoring. And the last few games have certainly been the case. Perth winning 3 out of the last 5 games, including a draw back in 2023. But they've always been neck and neck. Obviously, they share Mineral Resources Park, so they know the ground very well. You'd expect this one to be not sort of a down-to-the-wire contest, but one that could be decided until the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, it could be. I think they're going to have to stop Constable fairly early, and Parfitt as well.
Don't forget Carey as well.
Yeah, it's... I think I'm probably leaning towards more Perth from a 5 or 6 goal margin.
Yeah, I'll say Perth as well, but you want to see the Eagles, take it right to the Demons and make it a good contest. So Demons for us, we're both in agreement with that one. Should be a great game. You can see that live on 7+. As you can see, all the WAFL Men's League matches in 2026 on 7+, your home of WAFL football
good luck with
this
the call
season.
on that one as well.
Thanks, mate. Looking forward to getting down there. Just quietly, too, a bit of a comical spin on this game. Kyle Horsley, he's branded it amongst the Eagles group, the Hungry Jacks Cup, because both teams have a sponsorship in Hungry Jacks, And I suggested to him during the pre-season training session I went to
the trophy.
Adam Simpson, yeah, that's a bit ironic. Problem is, he resides in Melbourne these days.
That's what I thought you were going with it, because he obviously owns Hungry Jacks at Lathlane.
He does. But someone maybe could present a trophy with a whopper inside to the winning team, and the losing team has to buy the winning team 24 box of nuggets. How's that one?
I don't mind it. I have to throw it out there.
Yeah, certainly will. Suggest that the WA football maybe. But all the best to Perth and West Coast nonetheless. Should be a great game in what is perfect conditions. Now, Swan Districts and South Fremantle clash in their season opener at Steel Blue Oval. 2:30 on Friday on 7+. The John Todd Cup is up for grabs. Both sides have acknowledged that they're not going to be at full strength. A couple of players that are still sidelined, yet to come back. They'll come back within a month or two. But it's a good chance for Swan Districts and South Fremantle to test out some of their younger faces. South Fremantle are going to have about 15 or 16 players from last year's premiership in their squad for round one. Swan Districts, as we've alluded to, Clint Hinchcliffe will be making his debut. But I tell you what, the fans at Steel Blue Oval, they're eager to see some WAFL football, and they should get a beauty on Friday.
Yeah, it's obviously John Todd Cup. It's great tradition that's come in recent times. So I think Swans, they took it up to South Fremantle at Steel Blue Oval last time. I remember Matty Parker kicked that, which was greatly called by you, that goal of the year. But so I guess they'll take confidence of that. They're just going to be able to do it for 4 quarters, and they'll be happy that those players are returning from long-term injuries. But having said that, they'll be a bit nervous, obviously not wanting to go down early in the season as well when they've just come back out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And South Fremantle, they don't want to have the same thing. They don't want to go down in round one while defending a premiership, because they've got so much class everywhere around the ground. Okay, they might miss a forward option. We've been told Donaldson may not play in that game at Steel Blue Oval. We'll find out when the teams come out, and you can see that on our social channels. But if Donaldson doesn't play, that is going to leave Trey Rusco as a lone hand in that forward line. He needs an extra forward option to provide extra scoreboard pressure, because the Swans back line, if Passini, and also a couple of others, Jarvis Pena, come back, if they're selected for round one, they're going to make Rusco's life a bit of a headache in that opening round.
Yeah, I feel like they've got guys that can step up, though. You've got Rowan O'Hare's taking his game to the next level.
So is Mitch Gear as well.
So, I feel like they've got options. Obviously, Rusco is the main draw card, so they can shut him down. That'll go a long way. But at the same time, I feel like the other way is probably more evident from what we've seen in the sense of Lee Coleman. If he gets shut down, I feel like that's been an area where Swan Districts have really struggled probably not as much as if Rusko gets shut down, even though it probably hasn't been as much of a regular occurrence.
Great midfield battle as well expected. Jesse Turner up against Jake Florenka. That could be the matchup that will stand out in this clash.
Yeah, absolute ball magnet is Jesse Turner. So, again, a spiritual leader. Matty Parker will be in there as well. I think he's, clearly he was up there in the Sandover finishing runner-up. He's just about as good as a player as you find in the WAFL.
He looked great during the pre-season as well. He put in plenty of miles.
And he's just so determined as well. And you wouldn't put it past him to be as determined, if not more, after a premiership last year, where sometimes players can, think they've achieved it all, which he pretty much has done. But Matty Parker, I think, is in for another big season.
Who wins with all this in mind? Should be a great game, this one.
Yeah, South Fremantle obviously defending their premiership tilt in the first round of the season. I think they'll be tough to beat, even though Swan Districts will be rocking at Steel Below Oval. I think they'll give a good test of themselves, but still need to see how Swan Districts gel with a few recruits and injuries off the back of last year. So I think South Fremantle are just a bit more have a bit more continuity, if that makes sense, even before the season started.
You make a good case for South Fremantle, but I'm going the other way. I don't mind an opening round shock. I'm going the Swans at home, but in a close one. I think the young faces that are in that side are going to complement the existing experienced faces very well. Okay, it'll take some time to gel, but a win in round one will certainly do their confidence the world of good. And when those players that we mentioned come back later down the track, they could be a hard team to beat, especially at home. And I reckon they'll start off with a win. Could be a shock.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, then South Fremantle would have lost as many games as they did for the entirety of last year in the first round, obviously just losing the one.
In round one, how weird would that sound? It's almost as weird as the Eagles AFL side doubling their win tally from last year. Now we go on to the last game of Good Friday, and this should be a cracker. Under lights at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, twilight game, 4:10 on 7+. Subiaco and East Perth. Of course, we talked about East Perth, their chances with Scotty Jones a little earlier. Hamish Brayshaw out with calf trouble. Subiaco, they're looking good this pre-season. They've had some good results with a rejuvenated side. They could take it up to the Royals, but the Royals' experience and class could tell the story under lights at Leaderville.
Yeah, it was a close one last year. It was only the 15 points to, separated the side. So, Subiaco started that game really well last year, but it's a new season. East Perth, again, like we said to Scott Jones, don't have to search too far and wide for motivation. Subiaco out to prove a point and say, we mean business. We've sort of announced that in the off-season, and now it's time to do that. But then again, this thing takes time, and we can't have too many expectations of Schofield just coming in and making an immediate impact as he's done in previous years with a young group. So, Twilight Footy on Good Friday. It's been a real tradition between these two clubs for a long time now. So, I think, as Scotty Jones put it, going into these games, traditionally it was Subiaco, they're going to win again, and this time it's probably East Perth. Have changed that ledger a bit, but nothing's guaranteed.
Well, even with the new faces that are in that Subiaco side, that tide may turn not over East Perth, but, it could even it out a little bit. You look at these faces. Jacob Blight, he could be huge off that half-back line like he was for Peel Thunder. We touted him as a mid-season pick a couple of years ago, went to Richmond, didn't get his true opportunity. I thought he was misused over there at Richmond, but Subiaco, I reckon they can use him well on that half-back line.
Yeah, just an intercept marking machine is Jacob Blight. He's got strong character and obviously reads the ball really well across half-back as that primary sort of defender. It's a real gain for Subiaco in that sense.
What about East Perth? You're very high on Cooper Stevens. You've really touted him as a player to watch this season. Can play in the middle, a little bit up forward as well. He's back after a year out with an injury, and you do present a very good case, and a lot will agree. Yeah,
former first-round draft pick, Hawthorn and Geelong for Cooper Stevens. I think more than anything, just excited to see him play. It's been a long build-up, and obviously had that devastating ACL injury in the preseason last year. So long build-up, I don't mean by anything he's done, of course, but really excited. Also, Luke Foley against his former club
That's
as well,
right,
crossing over from the line. So probably a little bit of a grudge match for him, facing the old mob for get it over and done with, he'd probably think.
Would you think that this will be a very physical game? And you would expect that because both these sides, co-tenants at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, they've both got new faces. Subiaco look rejuvenated. They want to return to that era of dominance they had under Schofield, and the expectations are going to be there. And the expectations also on East Perth. Ross McQueen, of course, signed on for another 2 years, as we highlighted last week. And East Perth would want to start off with a win and third time lucky, as we said earlier. And that's pretty much the narrative that many are going with after two losing grand finals. So ideally, they want to start off with a win and get some confidence confidence into their best 22.
Yeah, they do, and they've got players coming up from the reserves who miraculously won a premiership from 5th. So, there's pressure on for spots, even though we do highlight how sort of settled they are.
I might put you on the spot here as far as who they're going to select to replace Hamish Brayshaw, because he's out for that game with a calf injury. Would you think Tyler Lindbergh would be selected in that game?
Yeah, he's not a like for like though. So he's a half forward. He's probably a bit more of a small forward who can rotate through the midfield. So I think it's unfair to say he's going to come in and replace Hamish Brayshaw. But positionally, maybe he might spend time in there. But I think he's probably in their best team anyway, to be honest. Like after that grand final performance last year, obviously he has to show that he's consistently up to league footy. But I think I think he's probably in their best team anyway.
And like Brayshaw, Lindbergh's got pace, and that's the case that I present for him. Brayshaw's got great leg pace going from midfield into attack. Same case for Lindbergh. Okay, Lindbergh's a bit younger than Brayshaw, but that age really doesn't matter in that sort of consideration. It's all about the durability of the legs, and Lindbergh, like Brayshaw, has got that, and that's the case that I want to present for him.
Yeah, and it's not like previous years where it almost felt like if a star mid went out, they just literally call up Jonah Brooks to come as the replacement. He's gone to West Perth now, so maybe a bit more of a not dilemma, but something they have to think through compared to previous years.
They've got so much depth, haven't they? Their reserve side, premiership, they can select anybody from there and they'd still put in a great performance because they're so versatile. With that in mind, who does win?
East Perth for mine, but hopefully it's a close one on Good Friday.
I'll say East Perth as well. A couple of goals in it there. We'd love to see a good game. And then, of course, Easter Saturday is when the round 1 action concludes. 3:30 on 7plus from HIF Health Insurance Oval. It's West Perth starting the Sanzoni era in his first full year as coach, up against Claremont, who are facing a very crucial year. Of course, they're first without Jai Bolton. It will take some time to get used to seeing Claremont without Jai Bolton, but they have had also a nice little modern rivalry in recent times. They've met in opening rounds in years past, and they've all been very close. Do you expect the same thing this time?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Claremont obviously have been up there so many times and yet to really break through for Ash Prescott and West Perth. Bit of a new era, but really excited to see what they can do, with the development of guys like Bevan and company, but then also the recruits that they've brought in, not only this year, but also, second year into Josh Rotham and those sort of guys. So
the return of Connor West as well. That is massive.
Exactly. Colin Livingston up forward gives them a bit of a new look as well, who can obviously chop into the ruck. So, and then those veterans are still there, Black, Nelson, Keitel, etc. So, I think West Perth, we should see improvement from them this year, and I'm expecting that come Saturday.
Would you think they'd get more wins that they had? Because they had 3 out of the last 8 games after Sanzoni took over as coach. Would you expect them to have more than that?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you got to give them time, of course. They're going to be inconsistent at times. That's the reality with young groups. But yeah, I think they should be trying to exceed that without a doubt.
Would you think you'd throw Livingston into the ruck against Oliver Eastland? That could be a matchup that we could look out for. Eastland obviously is a bigger body, but Livingston has good wingspan as well, and that makes up for his lack of height just barely against Oliver Eastland. So that might be a matchup worth watching.
Yeah, I personally think Livingston is better suited as a forward. Obviously, he has the ruck capabilities and he's a very strong backup. But I think Eastland can probably look to expose him in that department because he's the premier ruck in the competition along with Scotty Jones. I think Livingston ideally suits that forward role where he was a leading goal kicker for last year for West Coast. I do say I'm excited to see Livingston, but I think there's going to be a lot more expectation on his shoulders coming across from West Coast where they weren't winning games, and of course West Perth didn't do so too much last year. But I think he's a recruit now. He's another year older. There's going to be, and coming off an AFL list, although he didn't play any games, that's always a tie that people sort of refer to, you coming off an AFL list. So I think, it's sort of a double-edged sword. I'm excited to see what he can do, but the expectation is probably a bit more than when he was in a struggling Eagles outfit.
I think there's also going to be the same expectations for Claremont as well to back up your point on, especially some of the more experienced players that have had that window, that premiership window, open up to them repeatedly, but they just haven't been able to get that edge when the time has come. Bailey Rogers, Sandover medalist, Oliver Eastland, we talked about last year's Around the Waffle Player of the Year. Callan England in midfield as well. Talon DeLacy and Zach Mainwaring, the 2 key forwards. Declan Mountford down back. So it's going to be a real tough year for the Tigers, but they've got enough class and, run and carry through midfield to take on the likes of Black, Meadows, and even Noah Pecoraro down the back line, who's returning after a gap year. So that might be a bit of a silver lining for West Perth if the ball gets entered repeatedly into that forward 50. Pecoraro, he can play that role down back and ease the workload on his fellow backman.
Yeah, but you also didn't mention the key forwards that they have, which is another issue for West Perth down there. Hunter and Gowdy. You cast your mind back a year ago, and Gowdy and Hunter, probably the best ones who punch in the competition from a key forwards perspective. So, it's going to be tough for West Perth. But I think, they lift, especially when they're at home under lights. So, it's a marquee matchup, you could say, on Saturday night.
Don't tell me you're going with West Perth.
I'm going to go with West Perth. This is a big shock upset that could definitely come back to bite me. I'm just excited to see what they can do, and I think Claremont potentially have hung on for a bit long, and obviously they've backed Prescott, and no complaints about that from my end. But I think West Perth to sort of make a little bit of a statement to the competition that we've recruited, and we're going to go one time more for the veterans who are probably in their last year.
Of course, Aaron Black on the road to 300 as well. You make a good case with West Perth, but I'm sticking with Claremont. I reckon their class and their consistency around midfield is going to get the job done. They've won their last 3 against West Perth, and I reckon they'll continue that run on Saturday. Big weekend of WAFL football. Round 1, Good Friday and Easter Saturday, and 7plus is your home of all great WAFL action. Looking forward to getting down there on Friday to Lathlane for the Perth West Coast game. And let us know, fans, what game you're going to be taking a look at over the Easter long weekend. Okay, we'll take a break, and when we do come back, Rothy's Colts Report is back, of course, looking at some of the standout faces of the Colts competition that could have a big 2026 and the 4 games that are coming up starting under the Thursday night lights of Mandurah. Stay with us.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle on the Around the Waffle YouTube channel, thanks to the WA Sporting Hub, an amalgamation of Front Row Screens and Associates, and on your podcast provider. And now we go to, for the first time in 2026, Ethan's Colts Report. The EGT WAFL Colts is back as well, and you're making the trip down to Mandurah in just mere hours for the Thursday night encounter, Peel Thunder and East Fremantle. This is set to be a big season of Colts football, isn't it?
It is, yeah, a lot of hype, and great to have the games on YouTube and on 3 of the 4 games commentary-wise, so we're looking forward to a busy weekend in that aspect. And Peel, East Fremantle, I think obviously Peel didn't win a game last year, but hopefully that's just a one-off for them.
What are you looking forward to as far as the standout faces of the competition? Who are your 3 standouts that you're looking forward to this year? Putting you on the hot seat.
Yeah,
here.
it's there's a lot, so it's hard to condense it down to 3. I think one player I'm really excited about is Leo Steed from Swan Districts. Missed out on the 2025 Winter 18 squad after being in the summer squad the summer earlier, but he's just got lightning speed, and he was best on ground in the under-18s black versus gold game up at Joondalup earlier in the year. So I think he's a real bolter for the draft that maybe he's not getting the attention that he deserves at the moment, especially now that he's done at Wesley. So he'll have a full tilt to obviously 18s footy and Swans to start the season.
What about a couple of the others that you're looking forward to? Steed, obviously the number 1 touted by many after that stint at Wesley. Who else are you looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, looking forward to seeing James Artemis for East Fremantle. He's still a bottom age, which is quite hard to believe, and he's been pre-listed by Tasmania as one of the 12 across the country that they have pre-access to, along with a couple of other West Australian guys. So he wins medals for fun. I've tipped him for the Jack Clark medal. And he won the under-16s MVP in the championships last year. So, really excited to see what he can do with more midfield minutes under his belt.
And one more. That's 2 out of the 3. Who's your third?
Yeah, I've gone for a couple of midfielders, so I might change it up. And I'll say Mitch Sterling from Peel Thunder. He played an AFL Grand Final day in the Futures game, 197 centimetres, really strong hands. Was 6th in the comp last year for marks. And I think alluded to that winless season last year for Peel. I think he's one, along with a couple of others, that can really lift them up. With a new coach, Stephen Thompson as well. There's a lot of new coaches in the Colts as well, which is a bit of a transition period. But Mitch Sterling, I think, is another one that's flying under the radar.
The reigning premiers, Claremont, have also got a new coach.
They do. Mark Cossum. So it's not too often you see a premiership team have a new coach next year after Ricky Smith moved on, but Claremont absolutely stacked. I think they're going to be very hard to beat with Benji Van Rooy and Heath Melody, 2 AFL Academy members. You throw, so many names in there. George Gale, Robbie Farmer. The list does go on.
With that in mind, time for round 1. Of course, you're on 3 of the 4 games on the weekend. I just hope your voice remains intact come the Monday recap show, but you're going to smash it out there. Thursday night, who wins? Peel and East Fremantle?
East Fremantle for mine. I think, they're going to be too strong, especially with their 18 squad members. And, Kyle Moore and Ben Wood, probably the best 1-2 punch in the comp up forward for them.
What about Swans and South Fremantle? That is the first of the Friday matches.
Yeah, South Fremantle for mine, obviously grand finalists last year, looking to go one better. I think Lucas Robinson leading that midfield was hard to stop, but Swan Districts, they love to sort of be underdogs, as we see in final series, but I think South Fremantle will be too good.
Yeah, absolutely. After that grand final heartbreak, I'll go the south side as well. I'm going to go with Easter for the Thursday game. Subiaco, East Perth.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, these 2 developing sides didn't make finals last year. It's going to be really interesting. So I think off the top of my head, probably East Perth, but Subiaco out with a point to prove, especially with a couple of guys who were unlucky to miss the 18s program. Thatcher Simmons being one of them, who you cast your mind back a year ago, had 28 disposals in round 1, and probably been a bit forgotten about. But I think I guess the state 18 summer squad pain is Subiaco's gain in that engine room.
I'll say Subiaco in that game, but in a close one. And then finally, West Perth and Claremont.
Yeah, it's Claremont, very, very tough to beat, but West Perth, they've developed a lot of talent in the recent years. Steve Chapman is a really well-drilled team there. I'm going to say Claremont, but West Perth watch this space, especially with a lot of talented players. Harvey Sporton Guy, Campbell Creek, Rafe Williamson, a lot of guys there. But I think Claremont should be too good if they play anywhere near their best, especially with a couple of those AFL Academy members.
Yeah, I'll go Claremont to start their premiership defence with a victory.
Maybe. The 4-peat for Claremont. They haven't won, no team has won a 4-peat since them back in the 70s and the 90s. Wow. So, and on the flip side of that, West Perth haven't won a Colts flag since 1990, so sort of 2 opposite ends of the spectrum, even though West Perth made a grand final in 2022 and have been regulars in the finals since. 1990,
that is a very long time. My dad was in that Colts squad, ironically. Didn't play in the grand final. He got suspended.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Well, he'd love to see a Colts premiership, hopefully at West Perth in 2026. Hello, Alan. Hope you're going very well. Okay, before we get to the break, WAFL's not the only bit of action that we've got in store for you. WAFL W Round 2. Now, we saw great surprises in Round 1, Rothy. Are we going to see more over this Good Friday? All 4 games played on the Friday, starting at 12:25 down at Stillwell Oval. All matches, like the Colts, are on YouTube. Both Round 1 winners, Swan Districts and South Fremantle. Who are you liking in this one?
Yeah, obviously, Swan Districts couldn't have put a better performance on the board against Claremont, and South Fremantle likewise keeping East Fremantle goalless. So at home, I think Swan Districts will get the job done, but South Fremantle, they'll show that they're up to it if they can take that form that they did last week.
Well, do you think a match-up as well in the midfield between the likes of Polomeno and Henry be the decisive one? Because Henry got a lot of the football and used it quite well when going from midfield into attack. Likewise for Polomeno, who got the 3 votes in the WAFL W Player of the Year in Round 1. They're such good ball carriers as well when going from midfield into attack, and I reckon their run and carry could be the decisive factor for both sides in the game.
Yeah, obviously Henry wins it, and her skills have improved dramatically, I reckon, as well. So Polomeno obviously spending a bit more time up forward. Tara Stripley as well, another good ball carrier who's against her former side yet again, before she obviously spent time at Fremantle in the AFLW. So really looking forward to this game, and Swan Districts, if they can sort of get if they can get some more goals out of Ash Sharp as well, and that formidable forward line that possesses her, as well as Chloe Riley and multiple others up there. Of course, Taylor Edwards, the leading Joanne Huggins medalist. I think that'll go a long way. It's probably the best forward line in the competition at an early point.
And they've got the second youngest list in the competition overall. One player out of that South Fremantle contingent you did forget to mention, Ash Gomes. She had the last laugh against East Fremantle, picked up a ton of possessions. How do you think she'll fare this time against the Swan District's midfield, who is not only strong in class but also strong in depth? Because, going up against an East Fremantle side, okay, they're a young side last weekend. They did very well, did South Fremantle, but it's going to be an even tougher task. Would you think that the Swans would want to hone in on Gomes to try and stop her influence on the game?
Yeah, of course. I think the head-to-head matchup that comes to me straight away is Henry and Gomes, two pretty similar players. So, that'll be a watch this space as well. But, we talk about the run and carry Swans have. South Fremantle have that as well with Entwistle and company as well. It could be a quite frantic game, especially with the weather, I think, projected to be a bit better than last weekend, even though it was probably better result than we thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go to the Swans as well, to go 2 from 2, especially that midfield. They just ran rampant over Claremont on the weekend, and they could do so again. Hopefully a bit closer this time, because South Fremantle, they too have got their fair share of class in the middle. Peel Thunder and East Fremantle at 4 o'clock. So this is straight after the men's league match. So a nice little double header on Good Friday down there in Mandurah. Both sides with defeats last week. And Peel Thunder, of course, going into this game without Chloe Wrigley, as you reported on the Monday night recap show. Wrigley out for 3 weeks. Who are they going to turn to be that barometer anchor?
Yeah, I mean, it will give them confidence knowing that they got it within a couple of points of East Perth. But having said that, obviously Wrigley did contribute 2 on the day.
And they did lead by 20 in the second quarter.
Yeah, it's they'll look to bounce back, and they'll enjoy being back at home. But this is a game where, although East Fremantle didn't score a goal, they'll back themselves to win, especially with Wrigley's being out of the game.
How much forward options do they have? Because they went inside 50 numerous times. They only had 5 less, but they just could not find any options that could apply any scoreboard pressure. Yeah,
you've obviously got Rayson down there. McNaughton is a smart, natural forward, but I still think they're finding their feet in that sense. So, these are 2 of the teams that are developing. We know that. But I think they'll back themselves in to be a decent chance.
They've won their last 5 against Peel Thunder, and they've only conceded an average of less than 5 in those last 5 games. So they are every chance. But they've just got to find a way to get those forward options on those leads. They must generate some space inside that forward 50, because the likes of McNaughton and company, they didn't find anything against South Fremantle, because that South Fremantle back 6 just tore them to shreds. And they've got to find a way to try and clear that space at Lane Group Stadium. So small grounds, small pockets, and they're going to find a way against the Peel Thunder back line that were brilliant in the first half against East Perth.
Yeah, they were. I think, as I sort of alluded to a few times, it's a long-term thing for East Fremantle. So they're learning, as are Peel. So, I think they have had the wood over Peel, but it could be a bit of a changing of the guard, potentially.
Oh, you could say that, and I am saying it with that in mind. I'm going Peel. Who do you think?
Yeah, Peel as well for mine. I think could be could be a nail-biter.
Could be. It should be a great game over there at Lane Group Stadium on the Friday evening. And we've got another evening game on the Good Friday. This time it is Perth beginning their campaign, their first game of the season after the bye last week, up against Subiaco, who suffered a shock loss to West Perth in round 1. Perth going to have fresh legs coming off the bye. They've had a good pre-season. They have lost a couple of players to the AFLW draft, but a team led by Isabella Shannon and by the coaching of Steph Wadling, who's come over from East Fremantle, they could make a huge statement in 2026. They're up for a big improvement.
Yeah, they are. And they only lost by 17 points back in round 9 of last year, which a Subiaco team, which were probably a bit more sort of on paper dominant. Of course, we're still yet to see what that looks like in 2026, aside from round 1. Tossing and turning, honestly, on the tip of this one, because, I guess the natural thing is Subiaco, they're better than last week. But having said that, we're still yet to see how they can replace Woolmerand, Crane, etc. This is a game where Perth will come in with a real hot crack.
They relied on Quinn Schofield as that main forward option in that game. She didn't fire in what was a disappointing performance by the Lions. If she doesn't fire and she's well held by the Demons backline, who are they going to turn to? Are they going to turn to Crane? Are they going to turn to somebody else? They don't have, apart from Quinn Schofield, a lot of viable options up forward at the moment.
Yeah, that bona fide key forward, which comes with the risk of having someone so highly touted. And I think it's unfair to try and fill that void of Woolmerans, because the number 1 pick, first in WA's history. But yeah, they need to obviously find more avenues to goal. So potentially it comes from the midfield as well. But you can't put too much pressure on them.
Would you think the likes of Petrevski and company could convert into that goal-kicking midfielder role for this game, especially when you're up against, a Perth side heading into their second season? They do have some weapons up forward, but not with much experience.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, you probably think that the midfield maybe should be contributing more on top of the score, but they do so well to win the ball. So they can't do it all, which is important to note.
Who does win? It's a bit of a toss-up, this game.
Could honestly flip a coin.
Yeah.
Could honestly, I'm going to say Subiaco. I just don't want to dismiss them too quickly after, obviously, a straight set finals exit and then a round one loss. So I'm going to say they're going to bounce back and show everybody that they're still in there. But Perth, obviously we had a full season under their belt now, and they're going to be ready to go. So I would not be surprised if it's the other way around.
Yeah, I don't want to dismiss Subiaco too early, okay? But I feel they're going to go 0-2. I'm going Perth. Especially with Isabella Shannon leading the charge. I reckon if she wins her matchup against Petrevski, that will go a long way. That is going to be the matchup touted in that game on Friday. I'm going Perth in a bit of a shock.
Yeah, well, watch this space, eh?
It's going to be a big one on Friday, no doubt about that. And so will this one at 7:05 live on YouTube, concluding the round 2 action. This one should be a real test for both West Perth and Claremont on Friday night. Of course, West Perth, they haven't had a good time against Claremont in recent times. They have lost their last 3, including a preliminary final in 2024. But under night conditions, Claremont with a round 1 loss held to 1 goal. West Perth confidence boosted after that first round win over Subiaco and 2 returnees starring. It could be another tight tussle between these two teams.
Yeah, I was really impressed with West Perth's win over Subi, and a lot to take out of that. Claremont, obviously, they'll want to bounce back, and it's been a sort of a happy hunting ground, you could say, as a lot of grounds wherever they play have been given their success. But Claremont, they need to bounce back and show that last week was just a one-off.
They need to draw a line in the sand, West Perth, in this game, if you want my honest opinion about it, because Claremont, they've been the dominant side, not discrediting them whatsoever, but they need to put the line in the sand in a way that they're not going to be intimidated by the Tigers, because Claremont, they've been ruthless. They've intimidated their opponents through some good football, hard attacking, hard pressure. West Perth have got to counter that with a brand of their own, and I reckon they've got the players to do so. Roper, the returning Bennett, and also Zoe Huggett. Okay, she kicked 1 goal up forward, but I expect her to have a better game.
Yeah, and I'm sure Ortlet will go to her as the key matchup. So there's a lot of players from Claremont that need to step up. Jamie Harkin, it's not too often we see 2, below par performances from her, so I reckon she could get to work and put a real statement out there. But I think it's how good. Obviously night footy as well under lights.
It's going to be good. We love a bit of night footy, whether it's the WAFL or the WAFL W. I reckon that matchup between Harkin and Roper is going to be one to watch. They're both ball magnets. They rack up 25-plus disposals every week. Roper's starting to come into her own as that number 1 key midfielder in place of Mia Russo, who West Perth lost to the AFLW draft. That might be a good matchup. Dry conditions, under lights, not much dew on the ground on a warm day and on a warm Friday, and that could be one that may be the decisive factor in the game.
It could be, a lot of leg speed, as I guess WAFL W is transitioning with and getting better at. So, I think this one under pretty good conditions, no complaints about, no excuses, I should say.
Now, I'm going to have you have your tips second, because sometimes, man, you go one way and you go the other way with these games. I'm going with West Perth, but especially when you've got Roper on a charge, Claremont, 1 goal, not really alarm bells, but it's an early worry. Claremont are going to be a lot better than what they were in round 1, but I think West Perth may just have them. Yeah,
well, I can't remember the last time I tipped against Claremont, but it's going to be the case at the time of recording. And look at your face, you're shocked. So
you have actually done it.
Yeah, look, I think I was just concerned about the not enough avenues to go, not enough getting in there. They'll look to prove me wrong and watch it come back to bite me potentially. But West Perth, I think they could be one of the real deal.
Well, they could be if they go 0-2 and beating both the finalists from last year. But it's going to be a real test against the Claremont side that are going to be desperate to bounce back. We'll take one final break here on Around the Waffle. And when we do come back, we're going on location, this time to Subiaco. And Rothy and I are going to have our pre-season picks for the Waffle. And we'll open the floor to you as well on our socials when we put them out. This is Around the Waffle. Stay with us.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us on Around the Waffle on the Around the Waffle YouTube channel, watching right round Australia and right around the world in an amalgamation with the WA Sporting Hub and Associates, thanks to Front Row Screens, and of course on your podcast provider. Hey, you can check out our socials, Facebook and Instagram, for some great content. That's where we're going to be putting out the teams for the WAFL and WAFLW weekend of action starting on Friday. Now, we've taken the show on the road in 2026. Last week we went on location, Swan Districts, Jason Burton. That might have been a bit of an omen for them winning against Claremont. Thanks to Jason Burton for helping us out. During the pre-season, I went to Subiaco during one of the weeks of pre-season to talk with both Jared Schofield and Greg Clark. Here is the piece in full around the Waffle on location as Subiaco look to be a rejuvenated side in 2026.
Traditionally, Subiaco have been one of the more dominant clubs in the land, but recent years have not been as kind to the Lions. Since their premiership win in 2021, Subiaco have missed the five on all of the last 6 years bar one, 2023. But this year may be the end of the lean years of the Lions. An old Lion is coming back to the den, determined to get Subiaco back to September.
I think the opportunity to reset the club. We've probably had a couple of lean years by our own standards, and just super excited to get back to where it sort of started for me in my coaching career. And I've got a real hungry group at the moment that are really enthusiastic, and their commitment and attitude over the course of the pre-season.
Coming off stints with Port Adelaide and West Coast in recent years, Schofield has reignited an appetite to lead a Waffle side to success.
System has been first class, and at this stage, whilst we haven't played any opposition, I've been really happy with how they've attacked the pre-season.
The Lions welcome back Jacob Blight, former Peel player delisted by Richmond at the end of last year. Jack Petruccelli after his time at West Coast, and out of retirement, Ben Sokol is set to work his magic up forward like the days of old. Returning to the side, Greg Clark as captain brings a vital step in experience for the regenerated Lions.
Learnt the absolute most in our football careers, whether it's been 10 or 12 years long. We're really enjoying learning more about the game and getting an insight from what Jared's taken away from a number of years in the AFL, so it's been really great for all of us.
While pre-season can feel like a long grind, players like Clark are used to it. It's important getting the miles in before you start the season for real.
Yeah, we're really excited to get into games from here on in, and really get into the season and get cracking. It feels like it's been a long pre-season, but the boys have really put in a lot of effort, so we're really excited.
Subiaco are looking to capture their 2023 form, which saw them get to the preliminary final, and their first step is against co-tenants East Perth on Good Friday. At Sullivan Logistics Stadium, Paul Persick on location for Around the Waffle.
So there you have it. Subiaco look to be rejuvenated in 2026, and it starts on Friday.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good omen around the Waffle on location. I think, obviously it was an upset with what Swan Districts Women's did in the round one. Who knows if it could do the same for Subiaco in round one.
Thanks to Jared Schofield, Greg Clark and Subiaco. And of course, all the clubs that cooperated during the pre-season, and we're going to air a couple of those pieces during the early stages of the season as well. So fans, keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Okay, before we wrap up, Rothy, we made our tips for round one of the Waffle season, but what about the season picks? And I will let you go first.
Yeah, so obviously, ladder-wise, was pretty tough, but just going through it, we'll go downwards from 10th up. West Coast, unfortunately, I think they'll win another wooden spoon, but hopefully it's not so definitive, and hopefully they can still win games of football, and that's a reflection of how tight the competition is more so. East Fremantle going to be a big slider, I think, with the loss of Murdoch and Zaddo. I think they're going to be finished in 9th. Subiaco 8th. I think just that gap between the key recruits and also the experienced players between them and the young Colts coming up. So I think Schofield might need a little bit more time, and that's what they're eyeing off. West Perth in 7th position. I think, they'll show signs again, but potentially just some inconsistency, although obviously I spoke highly of them against Claremont, who are my next position-wise in 6th. I think they're going to miss the 5. Yep.
You've said Claremont to miss the 5. Don't have what happened to you have happened to me. I had egg on my face when I tipped Claremont to miss the 5.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully somewhat looking to turn the tides on that, but I obviously don't wish them. I do wish them well. Swan District's in 5th position. I think they'll sneak in a few recruits such as Hinchliffe. I think will adapt pretty well to league footy, and injuries will play a part prevention-wise. Peel Thunder in 4th. I think Fremantle's team is very stacked, and they also had some injuries last year. So I think, they're going to be really, really strong. East Perth in 3rd position. So I think not sliders, but I think obviously a reflection of other teams coming up and not ruling out what they can do. Not by any means saying they can't win the premiership after losing 2 grand finals. But my top 2 are Perth and South Fremantle. I think they've kept the core of their squads, the key players, and I think they're looking for a South Fremantle perspective to go back-to-back in Perth to reach a grand final for the first time in a long, long time.
Gone South Fremantle and Perth into decider, and the Bulldogs back-to-back. Made a good case for them, and we really can't go past South Fremantle, even with the loss of experience. Now, what about the major medalists, Sandover and Bernie Nala?
Yeah, Cooper Stevens for East Perth. I think he's going to make a really big impact, and I'm sure there's always that thread of, Brayshaw, Jones, Amajuri, North stealing votes, but I think as shown, players in strong sides are still out there, as shown with Charlie Constable last year. Bernie Naylor medal, Charlie Constable's teammate Aaron Clark. I think he's been up there, but I think with Perth, as predicted in the top 2, I think he's going to get a lot of goals, and he's the main focal point up there as well. But I think it's going to be a tight race in that sense, as it was last year where Trey Rusco only really won it in the last round.
He certainly did. What a big season of picks that you have dished out, Rothy, and let's hope they all turn out well for you. Okay, my turn. Going to the ladder, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go from 1st down to 10th. East Perth will win the minor premiership in 2026, but Perth won't be too far behind. I've got them finishing 2nd as well. South Fremantle, they won't drop too far. Obviously, the loss of experience, could be a bit of a challenge early on. They'll finish in the top 3. There's no doubt about that. I was torn on Claremont, whether they'll miss the 5 or make the 5. I've got them making the 5 this time, but they're going to finish 4th and host an elimination final, and I've got Swan District sneaking in, but the gap between 5th and around 8th or 9th is not going to be reflective, because it's only going to be a small gap, and the positions on the ladder that I've picked are not reflective on the gap between those teams at the bottom half and the top half of the ladder, because it's going to be a logjam for 4th and 5th, I reckon, come the end of the season. So Claremont 4th, Swan District's 5th, West Perth just missing, but they will improve and look to 2027 for a final maybe if Sanzoni's looking down that long-term radar. I've got Subiaco in 7th. Peel Thunder, their Fremantle team may be stacked, but inconsistency is what hurt them during the season. I feel they struggle, but like I said before, the gap between 8th and at least 5th won't be that much. I think it'll be 1 game at least. So they'll only miss the 5 by a split percentage or something. East Fremantle are my biggest sliders, unfortunately, especially with the loss of Murdoch and several of other experienced players and the focus on some of the younger sharks that Billy Monahan has got in his side. And West Coast will win the wooden spoon, but they'll have more than 1 win. You can bet that. There will be more than 1 win, and they'll show great improvement under Kyle Horsley in his 2nd year as coach. For the last day of the year, or last night of the year at Optus Stadium, it'll be Perth and East Perth in the grand final. First time since the big wet of 78, and it'll be East Perth 3rd time lucky. They'll be my premiers in 2026. Ross McQueen, who's had great success in the underage program at Claremont, he'll finally have success in the big one at the Royals. Sandover medalist will be Matty Parker. Isn't he just sensational? Always love watching him play. Whether I have a South Fremantle game on the call, that's who I want to see. That's the first player that comes to mind. Matty Parker, he's going to have a great year, and I'm going to go for a red herring in the Bernie Nala medal, Ben Sokol.
Wow. Running it back, eh? Back to the future.
Got to run it back sometimes. And Sokol, he's got the best technique when kicking for goal. I've called a lot of his games before he retired, and he's got a great technique, pure technique, no nonsense. Bit like Tony Lockett in a way, except without the hunched back as he's leaning forward kicking a goal. But he's got a great technique. So those are my picks.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. And yeah, some great picks there. And I think just looking at your grand finals, if it was Perth and East Perth, and even my one with South Fremantle against Perth. Imagine that the turnout, especially for a night grand final, some traditional clubs in there. there. And, a few big calls, but now it's time to actually see what happens.
Fans, let us know who you picked for your final five and your grand finalists. You can throw us a comment on our Facebook and Instagram. Rothy, get that voice set. You're in for a big weekend. I wish you all the luck in the world for the 3 games and go well.
Yeah, likewise, Paul, with your calls. And, happy Easter as well to everyone.
Absolutely.
And we'll recap on Monday. But, get to as many games as you can this weekend. We're looking forward to what's one of the best weekends on the footy calendar in round 1. No better way to kick it off.
Absolutely. And of course, round 2 in the WAFL W, the Easter long weekend, a great tradition in WA football. Have a happy Easter weekend. Enjoy the football that is coming your way. On Monday night, we'll recap all the action here on Around the WAFL and on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel and on your podcast providers. Happy Easter, everyone. We'll see you on Monday night.